Often, while one individual is fully absorbed in the pursuit of virtue and awaits the triumph of justice, others are actively seizing desired benefits and unashamedly dictating their own rules of the game. This observation serves as a starting point for understanding the dynamics of the modern world. This holds a ruthless truth that many prefer to keep silent. The world we inhabit is by no means an idyllic playground where good intentions are immediately rewarded. On the contrary, it's a complex chess match where success favors the most astute and strategically minded players, while the less experienced and naive are often crushed. At any given moment, someone is skillfully employing sophisticated psychological tactics to gain an advantage over others. Those who reach the top understand a fundamental truth that often eludes many. True power is not a gift that is bestowed, but rather a force that is taken. Genuine respect isn't earned solely through gentleness and kindness. It's achieved and solidified through the demonstration of resolve and inner strength. Thus, while one person might be engaged in a relatively simple game of checkers, others, with far greater foresight, are playing a complex game of chess, where the stakes are nothing less than their very lives. If anyone still believes the world operates according to some ideal principles of justice, they need only look around. Experience shows that the voice of the person who speaks loudest and most confidently is most often heard. The one who demonstrates superior mastery in their field invariably takes the grand prize, and an individual who deeply understands the intricacies of human nature can obtain anything they desire. The author of this material intends to present 8 so-called dark psychological strategies actively employed by the powerful to achieve dominance, expand influence, and secure victories. These methods remain inaccessible to most people because their minds are too absorbed in idealized notions of how the world should function, rather than the often harsh reality of how it does. These strategies are not soothing or pleasant advice one might hear from a popular motivational speaker. On the contrary, they are cold, meticulously refined, and calculating methods whose effectiveness is based on centuries of studying human behavior. These techniques were honed by masters of strategy like Niccolò Machiavelli, and their efficacy is irrefutably confirmed by the experience of everyone who has ever achieved true power and significant influence. The reader is about to grasp how society truly operates, hidden behind a mask of polite smiles and deceptive promises. They will understand why their good intentions sometimes turn against them, and, most importantly, learn how to change the situation so that they, not someone else, dictate the rules of the game instead of merely obeying them. By the end of this narrative, individuals will be able to see through the veil of lies many tell themselves about success, interpersonal relationships, and power. They will realize why those typically considered good guys often find themselves at a disadvantage, and, even more significantly, learn how to achieve supremacy without compromising their fundamental values and principles. However, before delving into these 8 game-changing strategies, one crucial commitment is required from the reader. You must make a firm promise to yourself and forever remember the following statement: I choose power, not pity. It is time to dispel some illusions and begin building genuine power. First, it's essential to understand the hidden rules by which society operates. There's something many would prefer to keep secret. Society functions with 2 sets of rules. One set consists of the norms taught in schools, while the other comprises those that hold true significance and determine the real state of affairs. The generally accepted public rules sound quite noble. Work hard, be honest, treat everyone fairly, and success will surely follow. These precepts serve to keep most people within certain boundaries, prompting them to obey instructions and contend for meager scraps of benefits. Meanwhile, the true players, those who genuinely influence the situation, operate by a completely different set of rules, the very hidden norms that are not publicized. Experience shows that people respect strength more than kindness. They are more likely to follow confidence than competence. Their rewards go to those who can evoke strong emotions in them, rather than to those who simply perform their jobs flawlessly. And here lies the main contradiction. They will invariably punish anyone who displays excessive honesty if that sincerity threatens their personal comfort or the established order. Think about your work environment. Who typically gets promoted? The most diligent and hardworking employee? Or the one who knows how to make their boss feel important? The most qualified specialist? Or the one who masterfully navigates office politics and games? The honest and straightforward employee, or the one who knows exactly when to speak and when it's wiser to remain silent? Every social group, whether a circle of friends or a Fortune 500 multinational corporation, operates according to unspoken hierarchies. There's always someone who makes key decisions, sets the overall tone, and someone others look to for approval and recognition. If an individual doesn't realize who this key figure is, then it's likely they are not that person themselves. Those who succeed understand perfectly that society is primarily a game of perception, not true merit. They clearly understand that how others perceive them matters far more than their actual professional qualities. They've grasped that emotional reactions often drive decisions, leaving logical arguments secondary. Niccolò Machiavelli once astutely remarked, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few indeed feel what you are." This statement means that a person's reputation is often valued more highly than their true essence. People form their judgments and make decisions about others based on the image they project externally, rather than who they truly are behind closed doors. Therefore, it is crucial to stop playing by the generally accepted, public rules that merely restrict and constrain. One must begin to recognize the hidden patterns that underlie human behavior. You should observe carefully who is listened to in important meetings, who is invited to significant events, and who receives callbacks first. These individuals are by no means always the smartest or most talented. They are simply those who deeply understand the true rules of this complex social game. The first and most crucial strategic step to take is to abandon naive expectations that the world should be fair. Instead, one must deeply immerse oneself in understanding how it actually functions, what its true mechanisms and unwritten rules are. The second fundamental principle concerns strategic self-improvement, which is the only type of development that holds true significance. Often, people approach personal growth from the perspective of a participant merely collecting prizes for showing up. They read books to feel intellectually superior, visit gyms to reinforce a sense of discipline, and actively participate in seminars to experience a surge of motivation. However, it's important to realize that simply feeling better is not the same as becoming more influential and effective. Strategic self-improvement does not aim to turn someone into an abstract, better version of themselves. Its true purpose is to transform an individual into a person capable of acting with maximum effectiveness. Every new skill one acquires, every useful habit one forms, and every weakness one purposefully eliminates, must be subservient to a single, larger goal, significantly increasing one's ability to obtain what they desire. Everyone needs to ask themselves a crucial question. Does this specific action make me stronger, smarter, or more influential? If the answer is no, then time is likely being spent on hobbies or entertainment, not on purposefully building influence. Truly powerful individuals don't improve for idle self-satisfaction. They do it to gain tangible advantages and strengthen their positions. For instance, they master public speaking not to overcome personal shyness, but to confidently dominate any room and any discussion. They develop physical strength not just for health, but for the unwavering confidence it projects to others. Moreover, they hone emotional control not merely to feel better, but to never, under any circumstances, allow others to see signs of their weakness. An analysis of every successful person's biography reveals a common trait. They managed to transform their personal development into a powerful strategic weapon. These individuals precisely identified the specific skills that would provide them with an undeniable advantage in their field. They then methodically and persistently mastered these skills to perfection, while most other people aimlessly bounced between dozens of different, often fleeting self-help trends. This isn't about striving to become some abstract, better version of oneself, but about transforming into the specific version of an individual who can consistently achieve tangible and significant results in the real world. This approach to self-development sometimes means having to be less kind. In other cases, it demands being significantly more calculating and pragmatic. And, most importantly, sometimes such a path involves a conscious choice in favor of effectiveness, even if it contradicts conventional notions of authenticity or sincerity. As the great thinker Niccolò Machiavelli once aptly remarked, "A lion cannot defend himself from snares, and a fox cannot defend himself from wolves. Therefore, it is necessary to be a fox to discover the snares, and a lion to terrify the wolves." This wisdom, tested over centuries, remains relevant to this day, serving as a compass for those who strive for self-improvement. The personal development strategy chosen by each individual must be structured to imbue them with enough cunning to evade the numerous traps set along life's path, and unwavering strength to boldly confront any emerging threats. It's time to abandon a chaotic, unsystematic approach to self-improvement. Instead, one should embark on the conscious and strategic formation of their own personality. To achieve this goal, an individual must identify the three most significant areas where purposeful skill improvement will yield the greatest increase in their influence and power. Thereafter, all efforts and attention must be concentrated precisely on these key directions. Any other aspects not on this priority list should be ruthlessly discarded. After all, everyone's time is limited, and competitors, who are not sleeping, will not wait for an individual to realize the full importance of this principle. The third fundamental pillar is the creation of truly unshakable, bulletproof self-esteem, which rests on internal dominance over one's own life, rather than on a constant search for external approval. A person's self-esteem is under relentless attack daily, and often, they don't even realize the extent of this impact. Social media tirelessly displays images of people supposedly leading more successful and happier lives. A manager at work might treat them as an easily replaceable cog in the machine. Family members sometimes question their decisions and choices. Society as a whole constantly transmits messages that they are not good enough unless they acquire certain products, look a certain way, or achieve imposed goals. In response to these challenges, most people instinctively try to patch the holes in their self-esteem by actively seeking validation from others. They post carefully selected photos hoping for a flood of likes, work overtime in a futile attempt to earn their boss's praise, and go to extraordinary lengths, bending over backwards, just to gain approval from others. However, self-esteem built solely on external validation is like a house erected on quicksand. It will inevitably crumble the moment someone stops feeding a person's fragile ego. True, unshakable self-esteem stems solely from dominating one's own life, from a feeling of complete control over it. It is born from a deep inner knowing that one can handle anything that comes their way. It stems from the ability to achieve what one desires, regardless of any obstacles, and from the realization that they will never need anyone's permission to feel good and confident. This path begins with victories and small battles with oneself. A person makes promises to themselves and meticulously keeps them, thereby strengthening trust in their own will. They set high standards for their life and follow them with unwavering determination. They stop seeking opinions they don't need and begin to fully trust their own judgment and intuition. Each time a person chooses discipline over immediate comfort, they lay a brick in the foundation of genuine self-confidence. Each time they stand up for themselves instead of remaining silent, they prove to themselves and the world that they can be trusted to protect their own interests. And each time they achieve something purely through their own efforts, they create irrefutable proof of their ability to produce significant results. But here's what isn't always said. Sometimes, forming truly unshakable self-confidence requires a willingness to disappoint others. This might mean deciding to say no when others strongly expect a yes. It entails steadfastly pursuing personal goals, even if loved ones, friends, and family don't always share or understand these aspirations. Such a path demands the courage to accept that some people may not like you, but it is precisely this that allows an individual to maintain profound self-respect. Machiavelli's famous saying states, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." This wisdom can be extrapolated to one's relationship with oneself. It is far more valuable to earn self-respect through one's actions and decisions than to try to cultivate self-love through empty, lifeless affirmations. One should stop chasing the approval of those whose opinions cannot significantly impact one's life. Instead, it's important to start building one's own narrative, filled with consistently kept promises, overcoming obstacles on the path to set goals, and unwavering commitment to what is most significant. It is from this source that true, unshakable confidence emanates. Fourth, the art of strategic thinking, the ability to see 3 steps ahead. While the vast majority of people tend to react solely to immediate events and current circumstances, strategically minded individuals are already actively planning their actions, anticipating future developments. They deeply understand that every action taken inevitably creates a chain reaction. Every decision made opens some opportunities while simultaneously closing others, and every move on life's chessboard can fundamentally alter the entire game. This is precisely why one often feels perpetually behind, while others seemingly effortlessly maintain the lead. It's not that these individuals possess superior intelligence. Rather, they are simply several steps ahead in their thought processes. The essence of strategic thinking lies in the fundamental question: what comes next? If someone is offered a new position, the question arises, what then? If they start a new relationship, what next? If they make an investment, what will be the consequences? If they have an important conversation, what will follow? Most individuals typically stop at the immediate short-term result. However, strategically minded people meticulously trace the entire chain of potential consequences 3, 4, or even 5 steps ahead. They aren't just focused on the desired outcome. They also carefully analyze what could go wrong, how other participants might react, and what opportunities they aim to keep open for future developments. Thinking about the future is the cornerstone of strategic thinking, and its manifestations can be observed in the most mundane situations. For example, when a participant proposes a new project at a business meeting, most attendees tend to evaluate its immediate appeal or potential benefit. However, a person with a strategic mindset is already ahead of the current moment. Their thoughts are directed towards the future. They analyze the potential leader of this initiative, anticipate the possible impact on existing team dynamics, assess the necessary resources, and, crucially, calculate how the success or failure of this endeavor will affect their own professional trajectory. Such foresight is also evident in more delicate interpersonal interactions. When faced with an individual whose behavior creates difficulties, most people tend to get bogged down in the intricacies of immediate confrontation. A different reaction is observed in someone who thinks strategically. Such a person is already constructing a multi-move combination. They either devise a plan to neutralize the opponent's destructive potential, stripping them of the ability to generate new difficulties, or they seek to occupy an advantageous position that will allow them to gain an edge or minimize losses, regardless of the difficult person's actions or decisions. It is crucial to emphasize that such an approach to life does not imply becoming a paranoid individual, constantly anticipating betrayal, or a cynical manipulator weaving intrigues. On the contrary, it signifies a high degree of preparedness. A strategically thinking person proactively considers various scenarios, much like a skilled chess player calculating moves in advance. They always have contingency plans, a kind of safety net, ready for use in unforeseen circumstances. They consciously consider how each action they take today, each decision made, will influence the scope of their opportunities and prospects in the foreseeable future. These principles are affirmed by the wise sayings of the past. The renowned thinker Niccolò Machiavelli once insightfully remarked, "A wise man does immediately what a fool does in the end." This phrase perfectly describes the behavior of strategically minded individuals. They do not postpone difficult and sometimes unpleasant decisions. Instead, they prefer to make them at early stages, when the situation has not yet reached a critical point, and the widest possible range of options for maneuver is available to them. This approach allows them to avoid situations where circumstances corner them, leaving only a meager and undesirable choice. For those who aspire to develop this valuable ability, there are concrete exercises that can be practiced immediately. Before making any significant decision, it is recommended to write down at least 3 possible outcomes and thoroughly plan actions for each of them. Furthermore, before entering any important situation, be it negotiations or a personal meeting, it is extremely beneficial to take time to reflect on the other person's motives, what they truly desire, what their deepest fears are, and how one can best position oneself to achieve set goals, regardless of their potential reaction. The 5th key aspect of personal development lies in cultivating an unshakable inner strength. True strength is not measured by physical indicators, such as the ability to lift heavy objects, or by the loudness of one's voice when asserting oneself. Genuine strength is rooted in an individual's psychology. It manifests in their unwavering ability to maintain clarity of mind and composure even under immense pressure, in their readiness to make difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions without the slightest hesitation or doubt in their own judgment. It also means steadfastly moving towards one's goals, regardless of obstacles, and even when all circumstances are extremely unfavorable. Unfortunately, the inner foundation of most people often turns out to be merely an illusion, a kind of counterfeit. This illusory strength rests on favorable external conditions: good weather, the support of loyal friends, stable and predictable circumstances, and events unfolding strictly according to a prearranged plan. However, the moment life, like an experienced player, throws an unexpected and serious problem their way, this fragile structure instantly collapses. Their self-confidence vanishes without a trace, like morning mist. Their ability to make balanced and effective decisions shatters. Instead of focusing on finding a way out of the situation, they frantically seek solace, immersing themselves in self-pity or avoiding responsibility. It is human nature to sometimes seek comfort when decisive action is what is truly required. Authentic inner power is born when an individual consciously places themselves in challenging circumstances and proves their ability to overcome them successfully. It manifests when they bravely face their fears instead of avoiding them, when they tackle complex tasks instead of passively waiting for them to disappear on their own, and when they choose the difficult path if it is the one that leads to the desired goal. Every encounter with a frightening circumstance that is successfully navigated adds to one's strength. Every defeat, after which a way is found to continue moving forward, forges resilience of spirit. Making tough decisions and being willing to bear their consequences builds the depth of inner power that remains unyielding in the face of any external storms. However, there is something that fundamentally distinguishes truly strong people from those who merely perceive themselves as such. They deeply understand that true strength is forged in solitude, in the quiet of one's personal space. The effort expended away from prying eyes ultimately determines a person's true capabilities when all eyes are on them. Individuals with a strong spirit daily practice what develops their mental fortitude. Their physical training serves not only to strengthen the body, but also to cultivate strict spiritual discipline. For them, reading is not just a source of information, but a methodical exercise for the intellect. They do not merely respond to life's challenges out of necessity, they actively seek them, for they are deeply convinced that each such trial expands their horizons and multiplies their abilities. Machiavelli once said, "Anyone who attacks my state is my enemy, and I can have no worse enemies than those who attack the foundations of my state." This wisdom directly reflects the understanding of the nature of a person's inner strength. Every time an individual allows themselves to yield to faint-heartedness or passivity, they infringe upon the very foundations of their own well-being and stability. Every time they prefer the comfortable zone of the familiar, instead of striving for development and self-improvement, they inevitably weaken their position, making themselves more susceptible and vulnerable to future trials. One should cease the fruitless search for easy solutions. Instead, one should focus on cultivating the ability to overcome the thorny paths of life. For it is the power that is formed in the process of confronting today's minor adversities and obstacles that serves as an unshakable foundation for successfully overcoming the grand crises that may await them in the future. The sixth crucial quality is the mastery of psychological dominance, but without a hint of aggression. True dominance by no means implies intimidation, frightening, or coercing others into submitting to one's desires. Such methods are for those who are weak in spirit and have not grasped the true nature of power. Genuine psychological superiority is expressed in becoming a person whom others naturally defer to, whose words are listened to carefully, and for whom they feel sincere respect. The genesis of this phenomenon begins with one's demeanor. Dominant individuals confidently occupy the space around them. Their speech is clear and direct, and their gaze remains focused and maintains eye contact. They do not display excessive fidgeting, do not offer unwarranted apologies, and never seek permission to express their own opinions. Their nonverbal cues, their body language, even before the first word is spoken, convincingly declare, "I belong here." However, physical presence alone merely forms the foundation. Mental dominance stems from the ability to remain the calmest person in any chaotic room, to be the most prepared in critical situations, and consistently make balanced, optimal decisions while under pressure. It is this aspect of dominance that is often misunderstood. It is not about controlling others, but about total control over oneself, which prompts others to instinctively recognize your inner power. When a person never loses composure, others begin to perceive them as a bastion of reliability. Consistently keeping promises builds unwavering trust in the eyes of others. And the ability to handle difficulties without a single complaint demonstrates unconditional competence. Furthermore, dominant individuals deeply understand the importance of establishing clear boundaries and strictly adhering to them. They do not negotiate with those who disregard their time. They do not engage in arguments with people who conduct discussions in bad faith or with clearly false intentions. They do not feel the need to explain themselves to those who have no moral or factual right to demand explanations from them. Such behavior creates a distinct psychological effect. People gradually realize that testing a dominant individual's resolve carries consequences, not in the form of punishment or retribution, but as perfectly natural, logical reactions. An attempt to cross established boundaries will simply result in a loss of access to that person. Meaninglessly wasting their time will make them unavailable. Showing disrespect will lead to the deprivation of their energy and attention. Machiavelli once said, "Men willingly believe what they wish to believe." Individuals with dominant influence deeply understand this psychological phenomenon and skillfully apply it in their strategies. They build their image in such a way that others sincerely wish to believe in their exceptional competence, unwavering reliability, and undeniable value. Their true task is not to instill fear, but to cultivate a level of respect where any attempt to challenge their authority or decisions would seem utterly pointless and hopeless to those around them. Once an individual achieves genuine psychological dominance, others naturally begin to coordinate their actions and interests with that person's goals, as they unreservedly recognize in them someone who consistently achieves desired results and successfully implements their plans. The seventh principle: cultivating magnetic confidence, capable of attracting power and influence. True confidence goes beyond a simple internal conviction in one's own abilities. It represents such an unequivocal and powerful projection of this belief outward that others inevitably begin to share it, developing trust in such an individual. It is magnetic confidence that possesses the unique ability to inspire people to want to follow someone, to trust their judgment implicitly, and to genuinely desire to be part of their successes and achievements. In most cases, the confidence displayed by people is rather defensive. They constantly strive to prove their competence, intelligence, or self-worth, as if justifying themselves to the world. However, such a defensive posture paradoxically repels true power, as it inadvertently transmits deep insecurity and doubt to those around them. In contrast, magnetic confidence is decidedly offensive. It requires no validation, but from the outset assumes high competence and reasonably expects unconditional respect. The key difference lies in the phrasing and message. Defensive confidence, as if pleading, says, "Please believe I can do this." Whereas magnetic confidence, brooking no argument, declares, "Here's how we'll do this." The former constantly seeks external approval and validation of its merits. The latter, conversely, sets a clear direction and leads. Magnetic confidence is developed through the methodical and consistent achievement of significant results, and subsequently allowing these results to speak eloquently for themselves. Every successfully achieved goal, every skillfully solved problem, every bravely overcome challenge, all become irrefutable evidence and convincing proof of an individual's exceptional abilities. It is this accumulated evidence that gives a person the full right to unwavering confidence, as their conviction in their abilities is based on solid reality, not on shaky hope or empty conjecture. However, there is a deeper, more advanced level of manifesting such confidence. Magnetic confidence also arises from a person's ability to remain calm and comfortable when faced with the unknown, and their readiness to actively explore and find the necessary knowledge. Instead of pretending to have all the answers to every question, such an individual becomes one who invariably finds those answers, and instead of painstakingly avoiding challenges that could potentially expose their weaknesses, they readily embrace precisely those trials that are guaranteed to make them significantly stronger and more resilient. Individuals with genuine self-confidence deeply understand the power of controlled vulnerability. They are not afraid to admit their own mistakes, to ask for assistance when it is urgently needed, or to openly state their limitations. It is this seeming weakness that, paradoxically, makes them significantly more trustworthy and attractive in the eyes of others, as people perceive such frankness as a manifestation of true strength of spirit and a high degree of self-control. The famous thinker Machiavelli once stated, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." This aphorism perfectly illustrates how attractive confidence draws high-caliber professionals and worthy individuals. The reason lies in the fact that truly confident people are capable of instilling similar confidence in others. When a person radiates strength and demonstrates competence, others naturally strive to become part of their team or sphere of influence. Therefore, one should cease the fruitless attempts to convince others of one's own confidence. Instead, one should focus on systematically building an impressive track record, honing necessary skills, and developing unshakable mental strength, which will serve as a solid, legitimate foundation for genuine self-reliance. Only then will this sincere confidence naturally attract new opportunities, valuable relationships, and necessary resources. Number 8. The ultimate power of strategic silence. In the modern world, where everyone strives to be heard and noticed, silence has paradoxically become the ultimate demonstration of true power. While many people, in trying to assert themselves, inadvertently deprive themselves of valuable opportunities, expose their own vulnerabilities, and prematurely disclose their carefully developed strategies, strategic silence, conversely, envelops a person in an aura of mystery, lending them the image of a thoughtful and even unpredictable individual. The vast majority of people harbor a deep fear of silence. They instinctively seek to fill every pause with a stream of words, meticulously explain every decision made, and readily share absolutely every thought. They mistakenly believe that the more they talk, the stronger their influence. In reality, however, the opposite is true. The more a person speaks, the more information they inadvertently reveal about themselves. And the more they reveal, the larger the arsenal of information that can subsequently be used against them by others. It is important to emphasize that strategic silence is not a manifestation of unsociability, or a desire for enigma solely for the sake of mystery itself. Its essence lies in a deep understanding that information represents immense power. And when a person is able to consciously control what information, and at what moment they are willing to disclose, they thereby gain complete control over the dynamics of influence distribution in any interpersonal interaction. The mechanism of strategic silence is simple and effective. Consider a few examples. If someone asks a question that one prefers to keep silent about, instead of resorting to lies or seeking excuses, one should simply pause, maintaining direct eye contact, and allow the silence to do its work. In most cases, people will either withdraw their question themselves or hasten to fill the ensuing silence, often revealing far more information than they initially intended. In the negotiation arena, the one who first breaks the silence after an offer is made is usually the first to make concessions. In conflict situations, the person who can maintain absolute composure while others are overcome by emotions automatically gains a tangible advantage. And when forming new relationships, the one who pays more attention to listening than to speaking inevitably uncovers the hidden weaknesses and true desires of all other participants in the interaction. Strategic silence, as a method, involves keeping one's intentions strictly confidential until they are fully ready for implementation. A person practicing this approach prefers not to publicize their goals, but to achieve them. They do not engage in lengthy explanations of their strategies, but directly proceed to their implementation. They do not need to justify their decisions. They simply make them, allowing subsequent results to speak for themselves. Such a tactic creates an aura of competence and intriguing mystery around the individual, which inevitably increases the respect of those around them. When a person acts this way, their steps become unpredictable to others, and this deprives others of the opportunity for gossip and idle speculation. This approach also ensures that those around them cannot impose their unsolicited advice regarding circumstances they do not understand or simply comprehend. The renowned thinker Machiavelli once remarked that nothing great was ever achieved without danger. In the context of strategic silence, this danger lies in the possibility of being misinterpreted by others. However, The power one gains by remaining underestimated, unpredictable, and independently managing one's life narrative significantly outweighs this potential risk. One should abandon the habit of explaining oneself to those who do not require such explanations. It is necessary to stop sharing information that brings no benefit. It is important to cease speaking when silence and attentive listening could provide a strategic advantage. If one masters this art of strategic silence, they will soon notice how their words begin to be perceived by others with far greater seriousness and weight. Thus, they grasp knowledge that the vast majority of people never realize in their entire lives. Society, for all its apparent unfairness, demonstrates astonishing predictability. Human reactions often do not obey strict logic. Rather, they respond to manifestations of strength, unwavering confidence, and deep strategic thinking. Power in this context should not be perceived as inherently evil. On the contrary, it is a necessary component for effective social interaction. The 8 strategies mentioned do not call for one to transform into someone else. Their true purpose is to help one become a more effective and refined version of oneself. They are aimed at understanding the true rules of the game by which the world operates, rather than blindly following artificial dictates that merely strip one of their potential power and influence. A clear challenge lies before anyone striving for mastery. They are invited to select one of these 8 strategic mindsets and integrate it into their life without delay, starting this very week. There's no benefit in postponing until next month, or waiting for a feeling of complete readiness. Action must be taken now. Knowledge not backed by concrete steps remains merely an intellectual exercise, incapable of bringing about real change. The individual engaging with these ideas is likely weary of being outplayed by others who, while perhaps not intellectually superior, possess a better grasp of the intricate rules of this game. Now that these rules have become clear, the pivotal question is how they will leverage this newfound understanding. It is crucial to remember, in a world where many operate under misguided or ineffective rules, a profound comprehension of the true underlying mechanisms is what truly makes an individual unstoppable. A choice invariably lies before them. They can persist in a state of naivete, allowing themselves to be exploited, or they can consciously embrace the role of a strategist and begin to gain the upper hand. The game of life has long been underway and continues. The sole remaining question is what role they will choose. Will they be an active player, shaping the course of events, or a passive pawn, moved solely by the will of others?